Hey, everybody. Boy, that came out weird. Anyway, welcome to Metaphysical Insights. This is William Becker. I'm your host, and we're off to a great start. I'm already messing up my words, so this will be a fun show. Um, I am very fortunate to have a very special guest today, Vivien Powell
Hi.
from Cambridgeshire. She actually is in the home country and area of Boudica's Last Stand. And yeah, and I'd say Vivian's probably inherited a certain amount of that feistiness um, in all
I
the
get
right
it from my
ways.
mum.
Yeah, and like I say, in all the right ways. Thank you, Will. And so, Vivian, welcome.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
always love catching up with you, William. You know that. My
Oh, I
brother
do
from
too.
another mother.
Yeah, and we haven't talked for a couple weeks.
No, there's been all sorts going on here, William. It's been good, bad, indifferent. It's just been one of those times where I think it's been horrible for everyone. Hi, Eric. I think it's been
Yeah,
horrible for everyone across the board. It's been a weird old time, I think, for people.
yeah. I've got a lot of friends that are affected personally by so
Mm.
much of what's happening.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we all are, but when it's directed at you and it doesn't just stop there. So, yeah,
Robert,
she does. I
You can call
agree.
me Marge. I spread myself thinly.
Aha. Well, if there's a thinning recipe in that to lose weight, let me know.
Yeah, I need
Um,
that too.
but
Hi, Rita.
I'm going to start into it because you've been on the show a lot. Well, some, so, and everybody up here so far knows you, and other people will know. But um, we were talking about one of your newer things that you're delving into, and don't tell me anything you don't want to talk about yet, because I understand plans take development and all this stuff. But your interest in cryptoids is getting more advanced, if that's the word.
It is. It is. Um, to the point where next year there's going to be. I'm going to jump from paranormal into the cryptid side of things. I will still be doing paranormal. That will never go away. But I'm going and I'm looking, and it's your fault, William,
I know.
because you took me
Everything's my fault.
you took me, well, we went to a museum in a place called Boring in Oregon,
Hmm.
and I met a certain man. And at that point, I had no knowledge, no idea, heard about it, seen it on the TV, didn't take much notice. But after meeting a certain person and going to that museum, the intrigue took hold and it's turned into a little bit of an obsession, to the point where I need to go squatching now, and I need to do it pretty soon because I'm jumping at the bit to do it. But before I do it, I have to gather as much information as possible, understand it as much as possible, talk to people that have already done it, and the conversations that I had with Cliff Barrackman. Now, if you don't know who Cliff Barrackman is, Google him.
Did
He
you see Rita's comment? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
blame William for everything.
It's usually
But
true.
but Cliff was such a plethora of information, wasn't he, William, when we went
Hmm.
there? And his manager, I have to give him a shout out, who manages the shop, Connor.
Yeah,
Now,
he's great.
Connor isn't just somebody who works in a shop in the museum. Connor actually goes out squatching. Connor knows so much information. In fact, I wonder if he knows more than Cliff. We never know, but But and I understand the two of them do go out together and look at evidence and
And I think he knows more than he lets
lets
on he
on.
knows too.
Yeah.
I mean, you
So
can't talk everything.
no. So speaking to these two guys and gaining information, and okay, yes, you buy your little trinkets and souvenirs, and I mean, I came back with a cast of a foot and a hand, and walked around the museum. I just soaked it all in, saw the fakery, saw the real stuff that they'd got, saw the film footage, smelt the aroma, all the rest of it, and speaking to actual witnesses that had seen for themselves, like a friend of ours, I'm not going
Mm.
to mention his name because it's not fair, actually witnessed a Bigfoot, what, 6 foot away, that close. And that was a terrifying experience in itself. Not so much for him, but for his partner of the time. You know.
Yeah.
So um, this has all got me so intrigued. And with the reports that have been coming out in the UK this year alone, in the last few months alone, has been phenomenal. Hi, Nicola. So, yeah, so I'm picking up the gauntlet with a couple of people, and that is going to be investigated and reported and researched properly. That's what we're going to do.
Fantastic. I still think, though, you're looking in the wrong place.
We're going to be going to the places where eyewitness reports, more than one person has seen over a period of time. Um, Other reports are a bit more grisly. We are going to be putting ourselves in positions of, hi, William. Hope you're well. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time, but we still have the ghost hunting going on. That's still going to happen, and with uh, striking midnight, those investigations are still going to happen, and also the podcasting on the Things Network and on the Simply Spooky Network. That's going to happen, and some stuff going off for Things next. So next year is going to be really busy.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many. Oh wait, let me back up here. Sorry, folks, ADHD day. But you don't have to do one or the other. Actually, cryptozoology and um, paranormal, I mean, they fit together because paranormal means not in the norm,
Mm,
and these are not as well in our line of thinking now.
mm.
Um, but I'm an hour to 2 hours from some of the best squatching in the world, and we don't have adders in those areas, and they're not on the side of the mountains that have rattlesnakes either.
So,
So
William, when are we going? I'm coming over. We're doing it.
I'll have, yeah. Well, anything overnight. I've done my camping trips overnight, thank you. So unless it's a nice RV that's self-contained with its own bathroom, um,
You can
you
sleep in the
can
car.
you can. I'm I'm at a point in life where an a rustic ancient hotel, I can put up with a lot in a building that's 900 years old, although I find they're usually quite luxurious. But other than that, I want 4 star.
Mm.
3 on a good day or a bad day. Um, so I've gotten um, I've gotten older, and I just yeah, I don't do
They're going
as
to
well
drop
that way.
drop me off and then pick me up.
Yeah, and
Something like that.
uh-huh. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Robert, let's see. The ones that you're seeing are mostly from China, so they're not as expensive. The ones over here are all the handmade German ones. Yes, and they are They are expensive.
Mm.
Um, the last one I bought was, oh, it's several years ago. I bought it in Berlin, not at Christmas, and it was 70 euro. It's like this big. Um, so yeah. Um, but I'm sorry. I interrupted what you were saying to answer his question, and there's a reason why I don't do that usually. Um, because I always lose my train of thought. And
It's all right. We don't mind. We'll go down
yeah,
different rabbit holes.
yeah, we do. And but it's just actually you don't need to, like this friend of ours you were talking about. A lot of his experiences were during the day.
Yeah.
It's like people think, "Oh, I'm going to go ghost hunting, so I better go at midnight." And it's like, no, why? You don't need to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
Um,
true.
yeah, it's like I want to sleep now at night. Um, my days of starting the nightlife at 10 or 11 at night are over.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have that stamina anymore, and that includes for hunting ghosts or whatever. But I think it's interesting because you've got a lot of reports you say over there, and you know me, you know how skeptical I am,
Yeah.
um, and especially from people and sources I don't know. There's so much faked, and
Mm-hmm.
on the internet and YouTube, I think there's
Mm-hmm.
more fake than real, and
Yeah.
it's increasingly difficult to figure out um, what is real and what isn't.
Okay.
And true. Um, and so I'm very much a show me
Mm.
kind of guy.
Yeah.
Um, but tell us a little bit more about some of these reports you're talking about that are there are good ways to find their credibility other than just they've been on YouTube. That
Yeah.
doesn't
No.
mean anything to me.
No. Well, these are some people that have come forward. Um, some people that have done the interviews. Some that haven't. And there's people describing. Now, this is what I find really fascinating. Um, there was a couple. I'm not going to say where this was. I'm going to keep this fairly quiet.
Okay,
But they were walking along a cliff path. Uh, they got to their holiday destination, unpacked their bags. What should we do now? Let's walk along this cliff path. Just get a bit of fresh air and get used to our surroundings before it gets dark.
right.
So off they went, walking along this cliff path. Now, this couple, let's say middle aged, no interest in the paranormal. They both have very good careers. They were having this mini breakaway to recharge their batteries. Walked along this cliff path, looked down, and saw it was sitting on rocks. Okay, so apparently the female stopped by and what the hell is that? And her husband just stopped to look. And what they were describing was they thought initially at first it was a dog that was stranded on these cliffs. So they were looking down at it. And the cliffs are not that high, not
Hmm.
like your cliffs over there.
Right.
Weren't that high. So they're looking down at this dog that they thought that must have fallen, landed on these cliffs. But it didn't seem to be in any distress. It was just sitting there. And they
Hmm.
stood watching it for a little while, like not even talking to one another. They were just trying to ascertain what is it and why is it there. And this thing turned and looked at them, and they described seeing like a dog type face with the muzzle, the ears, and they thought, well, that doesn't really look like a dog that we would know. And then the thing stood up. when the thing stood up. Now, how they could talk about the height in such detail from where they were standing, they could have been mistaken. But
Right.
the husband had turned around and did say, as it stood up and looked at us, he said this thing was over 6 foot tall. And he said, but he didn't look like a normal type of dog. It had like human type features to it. He said, but it was dog like to me. He said, but what I thought was astounding was the way it leapt off of these rocks, went down with such ease and gone. He said, afterwards, like he stood there for a good, what seemed like an age, in
Hmm.
silence, just staring at his wife, like, what the hell is that?
Hmm.
To the point where she got a little bit frightened. We don't know what it is. It could come up here. Let's
Right.
go.
Right.
And it did shake them. They both witnessed it at the same time. But he was the one that was more vocal about its movement when it stood up, how it got off the cliff.
Hmm.
They didn't see it after that. They lost sight of it. But he said it didn't disappear into thin air.
Right.
It went. There's been other sightings of that same creature, not by the same couple, at a different time earlier in the year, but they didn't see it sitting on the cliffs. They saw it elsewhere in that vicinity. So, and again, unconnected, never met each other before, have no interest in the paranormal, don't even know what a cryptid is, you know. And
Yeah.
this is what I'm finding very credible. The more reports that are coming in from that area of the same creature, I'm going to call it a creature because we don't know what it is.
Right.
It could be a dog for all we know, but I think it needs to be looked at in greater detail, to be fair, and some time spent there as well.
Right.
So not just go and do one investigation, get nothing. Oh, well, it doesn't exist, come home. Keep going back over a period of time, talking to everybody, just seeing, is there any telltale marks? Are there any clues what it is? Is there any feces left behind? What is it eating? How is it surviving? Does it have a den? All these sort of things have to be investigated,
Exactly.
not just the creature.
What are the paw prints or footprints, if there are any? Um,
Exactly.
I mean, a lot of questions. And
Yeah.
then also you start getting how many of the reports are people's imagination because they're
Exactly.
susceptible. It's really easy to do that where people say there's something and then people see it. And they
Yeah.
really think they see it, but there was nothing there.
Do you know? When I first started in the paranormal of later years, let's not get this confused from when I first started. I mean, like with the team.
Right.
I ran a team that would go to certain areas to investigate and would document everything, reports, photographs, film footage. Everything was documented and kept in a file. And then we would go back once or twice, maybe 3 times that year, and the same the following year. But we'll try and change the dates that we go
Right.
unless something very significant happened. And these things were documented and kept in a library. That library is still with me. I know exactly what the hauntings are, did the history, did the research, experienced, got my team members to use certain types of equipment, recorded it all, and then compared, like over a period of years, comparisons were made. And then we were listening to other teams and what they were getting. We would never publish anything we got. We kept it
Right.
very quiet. But then other teams would go in that place and we'd ask them, what did you get? Did you get much? And we'd take that information and look at ours and try and compare. And so there were reasons why we were going back to the same place over and over and over again. Was this thing real? Is there such a haunting? Is it a tale that came down over a period of time? Who saw it? When did you see it? How did you feel before, during, and after? There was so
Right.
much went on behind the scenes, and so if we can implement that with the same kind of technique with cryptid, I think we might learn something, especially here in the UK. because there's not enough people doing it and not enough people actually documenting it. It's one thing getting all together the information, but it needs to be documented somehow, some way. How are we going to do that? I have no idea.
Well,
We
and I
might even
can
go there just to disprove everything.
well, and I can give you set you up with a couple people. One of them, and
Hmm.
that person that you're talking about, folks, he's got his master's in it's either history or archaeology. He's a
Yeah,
professional archaeologist. It's what he
yeah,
does by profession. A lot of times he's doing work for the tribes, so often he'll be in more isolated
yeah,
areas. Um, and he's trained, and his job is to examine all the facts and the details and um, make edu- educated discernment.
yeah,
Um, and so it's not somebody whose only thinking pattern is a box is square.
yeah,
He's aware of so much more.
exactly.
And I mean, that makes a difference to me. Um, and he's honest. I mean, he doesn't lie about these things for self glory.
No,
There's another friend that I was with when I saw Bigfoot, and I don't know if you've met or not, but I can let you talk. Now, these aren't people that are going to be able to be there with you,
no,
but they're people that can help give you some advice and some tips. Because this other friend I'm talking about, um, wonderful person, very honest. I've not always, I've often wondered, okay, is his interpretation
hmm
correct for what he's experienced or whatever? And then I saw one, so yeah. Um, and I still can't find a way else to explain it. Um, but um, and he's somebody that spent a lot of time out in the woods,
yeah,
and not your woods, but at least um, woods that have some pretty nasty things in them.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, we've got here, they've reintroduced wild boar into some of the woods and forests around here. So we
okay,
have that to contend with. Not just the north, we've got a few spiders and snakes, nothing that's going to kill you if you're careful. Um,
although an adder will give you a pretty bad time.
it would. But then it's not just that, it's
Yeah,
and so we are gonna, when we do go out and we do what we do, we are going to keep it very quiet and very hush hush, and we may speak on it afterwards, but we won't be talking about it before, during, or shortly after we go.
right.
It's going to be a very serious project that's being undertaken.
And you might not want to give locations.
No,
Um, the Bigfoot I talked to, I mean, that's part of why um, they don't want it known. You
no.
know, I promise not to reveal their location, and I
The, the
haven't.
thing is, the thing is here, it's not just the Bigfoot or the dog man or the owl man. It's the other things that are being seen and not really being discussed. And it's like, how can I explain it? See, America seems to embrace it. We over here, it seems like it's being driven underground and kept hush hush, like it's a dirty little secret. And it's not at all. Like, cryptids have always been there, and cryptids will always be there. They were there before us, and they'll certainly be there after us. So, I think it's something that we should be embracing, but people aren't. Like, it's not a fashionable thing to do over here in the UK, and I don't know why.
Well, I wonder if maybe if it's still one of those things where um, it doesn't make sense to enough people, and people don't believe it's real.
Mm,
It makes good TV. Reality doesn't always make good TV, and so if it's a commercial television program, you've always got to take it with a few pounds of salt.
Yeah,
Um, but um, with the other, I don't know, I'm guessing.
yeah.
Um, because here, it's only recently that people would believe people seeing and saying things, and most of people still won't.
Oh,
And for me, dogmen, mothmen, things like that, I haven't seen or heard anything that I find credible enough to
there's a
make it
guy.
worth even looking.
There's a guy over here, a absolutely fantastic guy, and I would recommend if you haven't got one, go look online, buy one of his books. His
Okay.
name is Andy McGrath,
Hmm.
and he's actually currently, I think he might have just finished his filming, but he's actually going from the length and breadth of England, doing a documentary for TV
Hmm.
for England's cryptids. I think he's calling it the Beasts of Britain or something. His books, the Beasts of Britain, are quite interesting and very informative.
Okay.
But he's out there actually doing it in the field, and I believe he actually goes on a lot of Cliff and Bobo's podcasts, and they talk about what they've been up to and the cryptid side of things, which is quite interesting.
Oh, good.
But he's also someone that we could also go and speak to, get some information from him. What should we do next? We found this. I've got to learn how to do. I've got to learn how to take a cast. So I'm going to be walking these places where the people walk their dogs to see if I can take a cast of their dog prints for practice, because it's something I've got to get used to carrying all that sort of thing with me, and yeah, so that's going to be interesting. So I think Andy's going to buy me a kit for Christmas, plaster of Paris or something, learn how to mix it and take the cast. And looking
Yeah.
for casts like, oh, Cliff. We watched a film together, didn't we, William? Where Cliff had been called out to a place where there'd been a sighting of Bigfoot, and he went and he saw a print. And me and you sat and watched this film. And we went, where's the print then? I can't see any print. And he did a cast there and then. And when he lifted it, you saw the print. It's like, well, how did he see that? So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
getting
and on
used
the
to what
go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you
it's getting
off.
to sort of seeing it with a trained eye. Like, no, I'm not a trained eye. I didn't see it. He saw it. So it's like getting pointers. Like, what are you looking for? What's the telltale secrets? What should we be noticing as we're walking? That sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, and as a medium, um, I think you might want to try talking to them. I mean, it's telepathic, which is basically what we do when we're talking to all kinds of beings. And
Yeah. I think
um,
one of the cases I wouldn't do that. It's one of the cases I will tell you briefly that they pulled out seven pe- people, all deceased, um, but in body parts. And if there was something that's ripping people apart and doing that, I don't want to be drawing attention to myself. And I would sit quietly, just observe. That case never ever been solved. Is it down to human activity? We don't know. Is it down to cryptid? Don't know. But when we do that, something like that, we'll be treading and acting very cautiously, because we will not want to be putting ourselves in any danger whatsoever. So we are taking it very, very seriously
yeah,
and
but
with
I
the
think,
air of caution.
but if once you've made contact, if they've seen you, it might help if you have a conversation to
Yeah,
know what they're saying or what they're looking for. And it might help them to know that you're not a threat and you're
yeah.
not trying to capture one or
Oh, no,
skin
no,
it,
no.
and you're not going to give them up as to where they are, or
No.
because the ones I've talked to don't want to be, they don't want proof of their existence.
No.
Um, so um, I don't know. It's an idea because but you know what I mean. That's what I like
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I'm investigating too. It's you know, 20 minutes, 10 minutes. It's like take your meter. I don't care. Um, Let me see if there anybody wants to talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, um, so that it's not for everybody, but and you can practice that. My first communications were from 37,000 feet, flying
Mm.
over the mountains and remoting down and looking to see what was there. And I wasn't sure if what I saw or was saying was real because I hadn't seen one yet,
Hmm.
personally and physically. So I wasn't saying this is true, but it helped me then later to determine some things and say, okay, yeah, it was
Yeah.
real. So, um, because
Just
I was receiving it a little differently too.
I was just reading Eric's comment there. He talks about lidar. Now, I've been in a situation where lidar was used on a paranormal investigation at a prison,
Oh,
and
really?
as much as lidar was really good, I thought it also gave some false readings. But this was somebody using lidar that never used it before. Tried to do a little bit. They got all the stuff there, and they tried to use it to the best of their ability. They did a little bit of research on it and played around with it before they actually took it out. But it did give some false readings, which I thought was quite interesting. So whether he had the very early lidar stuff or whether this, I mean, it's been updated and all the time. It's not the big scanning lidar equipment that you see used in these shows. It was something on a smaller level because that's all he could afford at the time. Because lidar is expensive.
Yeah.
What
Well,
he
I
had.
thought lidar is where you penetrate the ground looking for
That's
anomalies at work.
geophys. That is.
Yeah, but I thought lidar was one of the pieces of equipment.
It's a
So
scanning. It's a scanning. It's a piece of scanning equipment that goes into it a bit more in depth. Um, it works. Does it not work on sonar or something?
they have different
Eric
ones
might be able to. Yeah, Eric might be
uh,
able to.
because they have some that are radar, some that are sonar, some
Yeah,
that are a variety of things. Um, but
but that was interesting in itself to see the lidar equipment coming out, and he was using it. I was with him when he picked this thing up, and it turned out to be something completely different. So we had to throw it out the window straight away.
well, if
But
this is one of the things that pick up figures that are walking or imprints, from um, heat signatures or something, then I mean, reflections in the door can give you false
yeah,
readings, all
yeah,
kinds of things.
it was interesting to see though. I didn't get too technical with him because when he started getting technical, oh, it works like this and it maps this and it does this and it blah blah blah, and I just thought, whew, over my head
Yeah,
because I just like to see results.
right. Now, Cliff has a question. Okay, Cliff, the ones that I was looking at um, from 35,000 feet, um, they were there were two different groups I saw, and one was a family just out having a nice afternoon, basically, like on a picnic type thing. It
Mm,
was a male and a female adult and a child, and they were very nice and whatever. And then the others was a small group of male adolescents, and they were doing what teenage boys often do, and they were throwing things around and such just for the hell of it, and they weren't They didn't want the attention. I mean, they were pretty rude. Um, but the others weren't rude. I mean, they weren't interested in having a lot of contact, but they weren't threatening in any way. It's like, go away, leave us alone.
Mhm.
Don't tell anybody we're here. And the adolescent ones did some posing and kind of like you'd expect from certain guys trying to be tough guys.
Yeah.
But the ones where I was, um, there were lots of things, but no, we were in their area. And
Mm.
one of the things that became very clear is that there are an elemental type being. They're in and out of dimensions.
Yeah.
And
I've heard that before. Not just with
yeah,
Bigfoot either. There's other cryptids that are doing that.
well,
I've
the
heard
first
that
time I'd
before.
even thought about it and then had it confirmed by the Fae was with the Fae.
Mm.
Um, because I thought, oh, maybe because we have all these stories, but it would make sense if they're in and out. And
Yeah.
that's what I picked up. Now, take it or just because I say it, I don't expect anybody to believe it. And they may have lied to me. I have seen Faye with my own two eyes, so that's why know there's something there.
Yeah.
Um, but I try not to be um, overly definitive. I let them tell me. And I could misunderstand. I could be crazy. I don't think I'm crazy. Um,
Not that crazy.
Not
A
that
little bit.
crazy. Yeah, just the right amount. So, I'm just saying, take it for what it's worth. I don't have signed affidavits, notarized and all the rest of it. But,
Yet.
yeah, yes. But this is my experience and what I've gotten from it. So, and, um, and actually my background is also one that's pretty analytical and needs proof and all
And
the
it
rest of
says
it.
she had a comment there, and she says, "I'm glad nobody has managed to find them, as that would be the end of them. And yet they already have them, and there are a few instances where military was involved. Mount St Helens actually blew. Do you remember? Well, you was around when that
I
happened, weren't you?
remember it well. It
And
was at uni.
yeah, and when that did happen, not only were they evacuating humans, they were also evacuating other creatures. And some of them were injured, some of them were dying, some of them were already dead. And the military apparently did a big operation to keep that very much undercover and under wraps. Now, this is something that has been spoken about by military personnel that were actually there.
Yeah,
There was an
how do
oh
you know it's been that way from people there? This is the first I've heard of
yeah,
it, and I've been to
yeah.
that mountain many times.
And there was also the military personnel that were ordered to gun down a family. And again, the military were there to, they weren't there for the Bigfoot initially. They were there because of the amount of drugs that are grown in the forest areas.
Mhm.
And they're there to sort of get rid of, destroy, remove, just to keep that under control. Yeah. So it is out there if you want to go and have a look and want to find it. Some of it you're going to have to decipher what is really a story that somebody's telling you and what is actually real. But this came from the man. Well, he was on his deathbed when he was revealing, but his military personnel that he worked with and alongside with, after this episode, they were separated and never saw or heard from one another again. And he subsequently, later on in life, found out that one was so distraught with what happened that he took his own life. He couldn't live with the guilt because he said of the human-like features, it was just like gunning down human beings. But anyway, it is
Yeah,
out
I
there.
I would want more than just
Yeah,
his because people
yeah, I
get
know what you're
confused.
saying, but yeah,
Yeah,
but
so
it is out there. If you look for it, you will find it. But it's knowing where to look. So
okay.
all I can say is you have to do your research when looking into this. But it's nothing new. And the Smithsonian Museum has been given or taken so many artifacts relating to all of this, and then it suddenly just disappears. So the giant skulls and the giant skeletons were dug up. Are they cryptid related? We don't know. But the Smithsonian took them, suddenly disappeared. And these things don't just disappear. They
But
don't
you
just
know,
go into
again, with
thin
the
air.
giant skeletons, I've
Mm.
never seen or heard anything I'd call credible talking about them.
There was
So I don't
one.
know.
There's also the mermaid that was ended up at the Smithsonian, and again that just disappeared. But what corroborates that one, which I find very interesting, is that when the RNLI went out on their um, practice maneuvers, is that what you would call it? The sea
Now,
was
what
quite
is the
sharp.
RNLI?
So it's the Royal. It's like the people that go out on the boats and save people at sea.
Oh, okay.
The Royal something, I don't know, naval. They're not part of the navy, but anyway, they go out and save people at sea. It's all voluntary based.
Right,
But they were out on a rough sea doing their practice runs, because this is when you're going to pick people up from rough seas and save them. They
right.
videoed, because some of them actually video their operation to see what they're doing wrong and where they can make better. And they actually captured something that was exactly the on video, that was exactly the same what ended up at the Smithsonian. And these are people that don't need to fake or do anything like that, that actually got it. A live one jump over the boat, but it's pretty nearly as good as you'll see it up close, and it face right in the camera. It's not something pretty. And yeah, so that gave me credence as to if they're catching that here in British waters, what they had in the Smithsonian, and you saw the pictures of it before it disappeared.
Uh-huh.
You can make the similarities, and it's like, yeah, that's the same thing.
Okay. Yeah, because it's so easy to fake the videos and stuff.
Yeah,
That's why I'm asking, and I'm sorry. It's not that I
it's not
distrust your honesty. It's just
it's not something that the RNLI would actually do. They wouldn't fake any video because they don't need to.
no, but
Uh,
I mean, if somebody else put this up as
oh no,
video from them and it wasn't them,
no, it was them
that's
that put
what
it
I mean.
up.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Now this is a picture of a mermaid.
they don't look like that.
You know this mermaid.
Is that Karen?
No,
No,
the red hair. Whoops.
I can't see it
With
very
the
well.
green and the white top and the flaming red hair.
And's got a beard. That's you,
Yeah.
is it?
No, that's James from the Stillhouse.
Oh, is
Yeah.
it?
But I just figured with mermaids you have
That's
to try
great.
to.
That is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. No, I mean the Bigfoot don't want to be found because they don't want to be killed or wound up in a circus.
Mm.
There's a report.
And also, like, there's others as well, like the story of Thunderbird. The Thunderbird, like, people don't even know what that is. If you talk about Thunderbird, they say, "What's that?" They think of the cartoon.
Mm-mm,
And that goes back to indigenous people living amongst these creatures and respecting them. And when other people or other cultures then get involved, it's like, we are, as humans, we're savages, all of us.
yeah, we can
We're
be
not
very
nice
much
people
so.
at all.
No, and
So,
sometimes when you're looking at earlier cultures, it's not a physical thing. A it's a a creation of something to represent. the natural world that they don't have the science to explain. And
Yeah.
then sometimes that's put to something real or not. Sometimes um, these things are described as living, but only the shaman can see them or something, which again then could be it's
I mean,
interdimensional or just it's a symbolic creation, not a physical creation.
yeah. I mean, I went earlier this year, I went to a very, very interesting convention. And I was lucky enough to get tickets to the Awakening. And at the Awakening Con, I met up with some very, very lovely and credible people that gave me some insights to things. Now, I'm not interested necessarily in UFO or the UFO phenomena, but it did make me sit up and listen, and to the very point where I wanted more information. And I've bought some books to start on my pathway of research. But within that, there is the cryptid side as well that comes into it, because they start talking about interdimensional beings.
Right,
And it's not just the cryptid, they're talking about the other side of it as well. And then I started thinking, well, if that's what they're talking about, and there are these different dimensions, are these things mistakenly known as gods?
right.
So, yeah, it left me very, very confused to a point where I had some experiences with Dan the year prior, and I questioned that experience a bit more deeply and a bit more profoundly. And I was talking to Barry Fitzgerald about this, and he's a great guy.
Oh
Um,
yeah, a good friend.
I respect his work as well. And when I was explaining that situation to him about what Dan and I had experienced and the way I felt, the fear,
Hmm.
I've never felt fear like that, especially in that field of things. And he said to me, do you know what? He's actually frightened me. He said, "You were right to be scared, and you were right to have left when you did." And then I sat and thought about that for months and months and months after I'd started reading in all these books and things, and thinking, you know what? There's something there that Barry's not saying to me. He's left it. He's left like this hole, if you like, for me to fill myself. And as I've been doing more and more research into it, I'm just thinking, holy cow, really? Like my thought process is changing about the paranormal in such a big way that it's actually quite frightening. Um,
Actually, I think this is still his latest book, and I got to read it while it was still manuscript, but I highly recommend this. It's
the Descent
very different
of Gods.
than anything else he's written. And
He did say about that book. He gave me a copy. I've got a copy, and he said to me, Viv, he said, read this book, put it down for a couple of weeks, and then reread it. He said, because when you first read it, you won't understand it. He said, you'll think about it. He said, then reread it. He said, and then you'll understand it more, and you'll get more of the insights. The next book that's coming explains all of it.
yep.
And I said, Barry, I said, if I read this book, will it put more of the fear of God into me, so to speak? And he's just started laughing in a way that he knows it will. He said, just read it. He said, and I'm around if you want any questions answered. He said, you know where I am. Just get in touch with me, you know.
Hmm.
Thinking, oh, I've just left it to one side. But there is another book that I started to read and I had to put down, and it was preparing, getting ready. And I'm thinking, I really shouldn't be reading these things because they plant little seeds, you know, and I don't want the seeds.
Right.
I just want to go investigate, get the facts, get the proof, get the facts, but keep myself and my soul and me in one piece, you know?
Well, and there's so many different levels, and so many different kinds of beings and energies, and even with what he's talking about, and he and I have talked about it pretty extensively.
Mm.
Um, there, it doesn't exclude what it is that you're seeing or doing on an investigation necessarily. It can just be another aspect,
Mm.
and
But
another group.
it's understanding when it's like when you're being lied to.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is, for an example, like Dan's not a medium. He's not like a spiritualist or anything like that.
Hmm.
He has his own beliefs. He's gone, he's brought up a Catholic, and I think he became pagan for a while. And but at the minute, he's just like it's just Dan. But where we're in a place and we're physically seeing at the same time the same thing with our own eyes,
Right.
but slight differences. Why are we both seeing the same thing at the same time? Are we being programmed to have that sight and that vision? But we're both seeing exactly the same thing. Then we both have the same reaction to that thing, but the reaction's not a good one. Like not feeling safe, uh, the feeling of dread, the feeling we have to leave. Why? Dan's a lot braver than me. Why would he have that same reaction? And none of us have said anything to each other. Are we being lied to?
Could be. Or it could be that you're both seeing the same thing and reacting to something that is perceived to be a danger, by any rational thinking human being. I mean,
Normally, normally Dan will be, "Oh, Viv, it's your imagination. Oh, Viv,
right.
just
But
calm yourself down." But on this particular occasion, we're both seeing the same thing. We're both reacting the same at the same time. Defense mode is going straight up, and this is
right.
just not Viv being like over dramatic,
Hmm.
like an over dramatic medium or whatever. I'm literally feeling like this is it. I'm going to die
Right.
here. That kind of feeling. And
Hmm.
Dan feeling the same thing at the same time as me. I don't think he's picking up on me because he's not got that gift to be able to do that. But when we had this conversation, I was telling Barry about this. He's saying, honestly, he said, you've heard that saying, go by your gut feeling, go by your senses. He's going, you have to. He said, because you would have got yourself in a very serious situation if you didn't. And I'm thinking, really? We're
Hmm.
coming back there.
No,
We're
this
not going
is
to
the
go back.
situation that I'm thinking about.
Yes.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
I thought at first he really was cool with these.
Once the cameras all went down and they started getting closer, that's
Okay,
when he
then it
yeah.
was, yeah. Because at first I thought he was, when they actually started responding to his invitation, then it's like,
I, we had to try and replicate everything we did that time we went, to the point where the same pieces of equipment, we're not taking anything new. If I can remember what I was wearing, what he was wearing, all exactly the same, to see if it will come back, and if it does, we'll be a bit more prepared for this. But
actually, I get a very strong no, don't do it. No, seriously. Re- don't do what I say just because I say so. Think about it.
yeah,
Because I get a feel of, okay, you got off lucky this last time. Don't push it.
but we just want to see if they
I
come
know.
back. If they come back, who are they? What are they? What do they want? because it was really really I can't even begin to explain to you how weird that was. They
Hmm.
came so close to me, I could have reached out and just touched one of them, but it was
Right,
just all so quick in the corner of your eye thing.
right.
But yeah.
But yeah, I'm not sure. I understand the wanting to know those questions or the answers to those questions. I would have the same one. Um,
The
be
reason why
careful.
we want these questions is because it goes back through history, a titleage, with the Lord actually passing away, and then his home, the hall, the Great Hall, was torn down. We think all of this is connected, and it's just trying to sort of piece together what the facts are, basically. But whether we can do it or not,
Yeah, and
uh,
there are lots of reasons the hall could have been torn down. Um,
yeah. And it's funny because he never got buried inside the church where everyone else was. He was taken outside. Why?
but he's still in consecrated land.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
And there could be, was there not enough room anymore? Did he not believe that much? I mean, I can see all kinds of answers for that too,
yeah,
because that happens a lot through history.
yeah.
Um, and so there's
There's
not
a great, there's a
necessarily
great,
anything.
there's a great story there, um,
Uh-huh.
that needs to be told.
Yeah.
But whether Dan and I will be the people that will be able to get the answers, I don't know. I very much doubt it because I am a scaredy pants when it comes to something as serious as that. But hopefully, fingers crossed, somebody will be able to go there and get the stories answered. Basically, the questions
Yeah.
answered. I mean,
And you may be able to get that from, if not the widow, at least offspring.
I mean, she's yeah. When she goes, the title goes. The
Right, but
the estate will be passed down, but the title disappears, which is
right.
quite sad. So we do want to go and sit down and talk to her and get as much information as possible for her from her, and the ancestors, the people before. Um, there is a great story there, which is the reason why we went there in the first place. About one of the ladies. She's in the church. She's absolutely fantastic. She's amazing. But that's another story. But yeah, which is why we went there initially anyway, because of one of their ancestors,
Hmm.
to actually physically see it for ourselves.
Yeah.
We had a whale of a time. Honestly, it wasn't scary. We were made to feel quite welcome. I was taken behind the scenes by the church warden. We ran up the stairs together, and he showed me the clock and how the clock worked in the top of the tower. An amazing piece of engineering, so old, and still working. And he showed me the keys, and it was just lovely. And he even, when he normally locks the church up, he kept it open for Dan and I, so we could spend time in there on our own. Um, Even shown us some of the wartime graffiti that was in there, which was
Mm.
amazing to see that graffiti that they're trying to preserve.
Right.
Um, but that was good. That was lovely. We, me and Dan got the royal treatment, if you like.
Uh-huh.
But it's what happened then afterwards, after we had such a lovely day and a lovely time, and then to experience that. We were in that graveyard with permission, and
Right.
they knew that we were going to be there. So it's not as though we were just turned up to do that. So
Yeah. Actually, that's a good thing to point out
yeah,
because people trespass all the time. They go even where they're not supposed to, not wanted, and it's so disrespectful.
and not
And
only that, I mean, there's a school right next to it. So when the
yeah,
children come out of school, if there's a strange old man sitting in the graveyard with a meter, It doesn't, and the
Mhm.
kids are all coming through. It doesn't really look very good, does it?
No,
So,
no, and well, and here too, I've been on investigations at cemeteries at night, late at night, with friends, and they've always set up the investigation and always let the cops know, and
mm,
it's always been with permission from the management owner, whatever, of the cemetery.
yeah,
So it's never trespassing, and it's always so the cops would know then too. Okay, this group has permission to be there because we have so much vandalism in cemeteries.
yeah,
Yeah, it's really horrific, especially historic ones. And then on top of that, you get the voodoo and the Santorini and the um, supposed witchcraft and oh, who knows what all that happens sometimes. And it's all very disrespectful. Um,
yeah.
and so when, this is just one of my normal shout outs. People, if you're going to be out there, be polite, be respectful.
As
Um,
well as if you turn up somewhere that is like public land or whatever, and there's another group there already.
yeah.
I've witnessed on social media. I mean, because a lot of people like to live stream these days, but I've witnessed groups attacking one another. Like, I was here first, you lot clear off. We don't want you here. Yeah, it's like, really? Can't you just get on together and share the investigation or anything that you capture? Like, just share between each other, or it's all this. Oh, I don't want you here. Straight away, their guard goes up.
I wonder if a lot of this has to do with the basic insecurity a lot of people have.
Mm,
And so they have to be special to feel good about themselves. They have to be the best. They have to create this narrative to feel like they're worth something instead of looking at deep inside and what their worth really is as a human. I mean, we're a pretty broken species, and the world is not very stable these days.
yeah,
And again, I'm not getting political. I'm just an
yeah,
overall overreaching fact that I think most people would agree with. Um, and that kind of uncertainty also then helps people. A lot of people feel out of control of their own lives and what's around them. So you get general insecurity, you get feel of lack of control. You get well, everybody. I'm a firm believer that everybody in the world needs a good therapist, and that's the right match.
yeah,
And because the world beats us up, and it's helpful to have the skills and tools to recognize what comes from where and appropriate ways to deal with things so we don't have to respond out of places that are less authentic than our true self. And um, I think all of those pieces put together are part of why there's so much of that in when you go to
mm,
the cemeteries and there's two groups there, or when you see the competition in general. um, I I know so many really wonderful people in the paranormal, but and I know some really wonderfuls who are really searching for a way to feel good about themselves as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
And
An ego thing.
yeah, because there's a real lacking inside, and I get it. And some of them will deal with it in a more healthy way than others do. And
So
so,
I'll tell you
yeah,
something that's quite funny to
uh-huh,
William. Me and Dan were naughty during lockdown, so we kept investigating and doing what we do. And we were invited to participate in an investigation, and there was only going to be a few people there. So we ummed and ahed, and we decided, yeah, we're going to go. So when we eventually got to the place, I'm not going to say where it was,
mhm,
to our dismay, there was about 11 people in this tiny 3-bedroom house. And we thought, well, okay, we've arrived here, we'll make the most of what we got. We'll
Hmm.
just try and, not be in big numbers of people and just stick to a few. So while I was out in the hallway, just getting some cameras and putting the IR lights on, and as you do, Dan had gone into what would have been the living room, and there were three. Well, I saw two guys in there, and they put a music box on the floor, and the music box was going off, and they had some cat balls there, and
Hmm.
they were calling out. They were investigating the living room, so they didn't mind me and Dan joining them. But while I was putting the lights, the IR lights in there and everything, I was like left to do the cameras and get everything out, and I struggled, attaching the IR light with the cameras because of this turny thing. You got to slide it in, then
Right.
turn this wheel to tighten it up. Oh, it just took me an age. Anyway, so when I finished, I've gone in there and I see the younger boys, and they said, "All right, we're going to go upstairs now." I said, "Okay, well we'll just stay down here because there's a lot of people upstairs. I hope you don't mind." And they said, "No, no, that's fine. Go for it." So Dan's like, and I was about 20 minutes. So Dan's gone, "Oh, that old fella, really nice fella." I said, "What old fella?" Because I was always checking to make sure Dan was okay with those two guys. He said, "That old fella with the beard." I said, "There was no old fella with a beard." He said, "Yeah, we were standing there talking about the music box because the music box was going off because Dan had explained to him, well, I bought one recently and I don't know if they're any good." And he said, "Do you reckon Spirit's setting off?" He's going, "Oh, yeah, definitely, most definitely." He said, Dan was telling me what this guy had told him, and they were talking about this one piece of equipment for 20 minutes. I said, "Dan, I was keeping an eye on you. The door was open. There was you in that room and those two younger guys. There was no man with a beard." He said, "No, no, stop having me on." He said, "This guy with the beard was there. He's a lovely fellow." He said, "Really nice. It's a salt of the earth." He was telling me about the music box and how Spirit is setting it off. I said, "Dan, there was no bloke with a beard." I said, "On my life." It was actually getting me quite angry because he was telling me I was the liar. And I was going, "No, you're the one that's the liar because there was no bloke with a beard." It turns out, now we've only found this out in hindsight, the bloke with the beard was the spirit that was setting off the music box that Dan was
Right.
having a conversation with about the music box because
Right.
he was saying, "Is that a good piece of equipment?" He's going, "Oh, yeah, 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 most definitely." He said, "You'll get some answers with this." So, and to this day, Dan cannot fathom how he's had a conversation with a spirit about a piece of equipment. I said, "Well, did you not talk to the young lads?" He said, "Well, I said hello, and I didn't want to get involved with what they were doing too much, let them get on with it." I said, "You know," he said, "Well, yeah." He said, "I had a little conversation with them." He said, "But nothing in depth." He said, "Because I was too busy talking to this old fella." And I said, like, "Dan, I really don't get you." I bet they thought that you were rude. You better apologise to them when they come downstairs. He's going, "Yeah, well, we'll wait for the old fella." I said, "There is that conversation again." And even when speaking to these two younger guys, I said, "It's that old fella with you?" He said, "No, there is no old fella with us." You know, so sharing that venue with these other guys, just we were the ones that turned up after. Well, we were invited, but it was like we turned up. It turned out great
Yeah.
in the end because we had this rapport with these guys. I bet they thought that Dan was off his head talking to somebody that weren't there.
Well, or I don't know. Hopefully they've figured out that there was somebody there for him to talk to because I mean they're there for that reason. They're there to find who and what and
but to be able to share it with them, that
yeah.
experience with them, and like we didn't know these people from Adam,
Uh-huh.
um, they didn't know us. We ended up having a really lovely evening together. I
Yeah.
don't know if Dan kept in contact. I'm going to have to ask him actually,
Yeah.
because they were great, and we learned a few bits from them. They had the
Uh,
music box there. We were talking to them about it. We learned a few techniques from them, and I'm sure they did from us. But I thought it was great. None of this aminosity.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah,
want
there
you here,
doesn't
get
have
out,
to
you know.
be. There
No.
doesn't have to be. And, the people I know, well, I've reached a point in life where if you're going to be a big drama queen all the time, go away. Um,
Yeah,
if I want to see a play, I'll go buy tickets. Um,
exactly.
and, um, and especially don't drag me in the middle of it. Um, but there are a lot of really good people too. I mean, I've talked about this one aspect, and those aren't bad people. They've got issues behind the scenes that push behavior that isn't necessarily helpful.
No.
I'm just trying to explain with that some of the partial reasons, and and then with there are a lot of people who are good, healthy human beings, and I mean, well, look at Jay and Casey and Ben and
Mm,
a bunch of people over here, and
yeah,
um, and people that work together and have a good time together
yeah.
and great parties. So, and then you get a few that get their nose out of joint, but that's okay too. That's life. There are always some of
Yeah.
those, and um, the only person I'm responsible, the only behavior I'm responsible in reaction is my own, and so
Do you know what? I wanna give a shout out to someone
okay,
who I think is quite a special lady. She's over there in where you are. She's not scared of calling out those fraudsters, and especially when it involves members of the public that are being duped out of
right,
money. And
right,
that special lady who's been through, oh God, she's been through so much in her lifetime, things that she should never have had to have experienced, but she has. And that lady is Ankasha. And
yes,
I've taken a leaf out of this lady's book because I'm started now to call out people that are fraudsters,
hmm,
that are egotistical, um, people that spread lies and rumors and things like that. I really don't care anymore. I will call you out. Sue me. If it's such a big thing, then and you get so upset, then sue me. That's my attitude because I guarantee you won't.
hmm,
This year, I have called out two people and I don't care because my name kept being mentioned from their mouth to make themselves look big and to boost their egos. So they were called out. There are within the paranormal field sexual predators. I will call them out too. If I come
good,
to experience, I will call them out. And if anyone asks me or wants to talk to me, they can message me about it if that's what you want to do. I don't care. Because if you behave a certain way, and especially when you are duping the public and you are putting the public at risk, I
hmm,
think your name needs to be called out. But Ankasha is a very selfless person. She works hard all her life.
yeah,
And when somebody is robbed basically of thousands and thousands of dollars just for sheer greed and
right,
ego, it needs to be called out. And she's one
exactly,
lady over there that did that. She called it out, and I thank her for that because she
yeah.
gave me the power and the strength to do exactly the same over here, and that's
Well,
what I
she's
do.
an amazing human being all the way
She
around,
is
and she's the best medium I know, um, as well. And um, Ankasha Amenti,
that's the
everybody.
name. Yeah,
You can
yeah,
find her on Facebook, and she has a website.
yeah,
But yeah, no, she's amazing. And her book, I have a copy, but I don't have it close to hold it up. Check it out because it has to
yeah.
do with her writings and such from her daughter. Um,
And
And
again, she wasn't frightened of um, putting that pen to paper and talking about her emotions and what she went through. And that's going to help so many people. And
yes,
that's not from being egotistical. In fact, it's actually the opposite, because she must have gone through so much heartache, even when just putting that pen to paper and writing that book. And she pushed that aside to help other people that have gone through exactly the same. So, and Kasha, if you're watching this, thank you.
yes. And she is certainly somebody who doesn't work out of an egotistical
No,
standpoint, you
oh
know.
no, definitely not. No,
And
no, I just had to give
yeah,
her a big shout out.
I'm glad you did. I really am. So, thank you. Um, I'll see her next weekend.
Oh, give her my love.
I will. Well, and I did too. I sent a text a while back,
Oh,
but
good, good, good.
um, yeah, and she'll be doing a gallery reading, so hopefully I can see that.
Yeah.
So,
There's a lot of great people, don't get me wrong.
hmm
There are so many great people that you meet along the way,
hmm
some that you look up to, some that you regret you ever met in your life, some that are just not worth the
you know,
effort.
there aren't many that I feel like I regret that I've ever met. And even with some of those, it's like, okay, I learned a pretty important lesson.
Yeah.
Um, so in my life, I can't think of more than a small handful or two after my 39 years on this planet.
Oh, yeah.
Watch out for the lightning strikes, folks.
He's my
That,
older brother, everyone. The clue is in the older.
uh-huh, lots older. I've earned every strand of this white.
Oh, I've got
So,
something important to announce to everyone.
okay.
It was this man's birthday yesterday,
Ah,
and he was 68 years old yesterday.
he's older than I am.
Happy birthday, Adamant. Cheers.
Yeah, excellent. He's older than I am.
Mm.
Barely, but he's older.
And he's still touring. If you haven't already, get your tickets next year.
He
He's
still
doing
looks
his tour. Yeah,
fabulous too.
he does. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think he went through a period where he didn't, though.
could be. I don't know. I don't keep up with anything like that. I get a little upset when it's the stars that get all the attention and there's a tragedy in their life and it's made to be more of a tragedy than a normal person's life who doesn't have the financial resources to help
Yeah.
get through it you know, in a without going broke.
I think
Mm.
at some point, well, everyone, I don't care who you are, we all fall off at the rail somehow, some way through our life. We'll have a bit of a wobble.
Yeah.
Some worse than others.
hmm
His one was his illness. Um, so yeah, he had his wobble, and he paid quite heavily for it. But he's back and he's still doing what he's doing, and I think that's a life lesson, isn't it? Really, and we all go through life lessons.
I think so too. And Cliff, you're my new best friend.
Cliff, you're a brown noser. Let's face it. I'm going to call you a brown noser, Cliff.
uh,
We'll see. What are
so
you paying him, William?
no. Um, uh, I tell you, I wish I had the body I had when I was 34. It worked a lot better and it looked a lot better.
But you've enjoyed life since then.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've enjoyed life most of the time. I mean, everybody has their down periods. I have them.
Hmm.
But all in all, again, I think part of our responsibility is we choose how we respond to what we're given and what's around us.
Yeah.
And um, oh, there are all kinds of wonderful things. Cliff and Vaughn, thank you, and Robert. Um,
crawler.
Crawler, I'm not quite sure what that is. I can guess because we have night crawlers, but I don't know. But Cliff and Vaughn, thank you both very much. Um, but yeah, we just one of the important things I think I'm learning is yes, we still need to work hard to correct what's ill and wrong in the world,
Hmm.
but it's not our job to try to control or even change people that don't want to be changed or something. Um,
Exactly.
and that's a hard lesson. And I've needed, you know, I've had people kick me in the butt several times, or I've learned from example and say, I really don't like that behavior in them. And then go, oh, I do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
did that 5 minutes ago. Okay, let's work on that. Um,
Yeah.
so, I mean, there's stuff in it. It just makes life a little less frustrating when you stick when you don't take on responsibility for that which isn't yours to take on.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's one of the life lessons that I've learned from you. Um, people give you help and advice throughout all walks of your life.
mhm,
And some people you listen to and some people you don't. You're one of these people that I listen to. So, which is why I call you my brother, because William is not just a good friend of mine, a best friend of mine. He's like family to me.
yeah. Well, and it's
And
mutual.
we've grown close over the years. This is just not an overnight thing and something we do online. We've
No,
known each other for a very long time now, so
yeah.
um, he is like family to me. I don't admit to him that he's right ever, because it gives him a big head.
Well, and she and her husband both are both wonderful people. So, and I've only met one of the children. Well, children. He's how old is he now?
Yeah,
27.
27. Yeah, he's
Uh-huh.
27. He was here. He was here this evening, actually.
Okay, with the
Yeah,
little one.
they went. It was fireworks this
Okay,
weekend, bonfire night. So they're
is it
the
bonfire
girlfriend.
night? Oh, it is.
Well, they're celebrating in this weekend because it's in the week, isn't it? So they've gone to the girlfriend and the little one went to watch the fireworks, and Damon sought shelter at Mum's house where it was warm and dry.
Smart man.
Mm,
Yeah. Let's see.
it is fun.
Vaughn, it's balance, I think. And that's different for everybody.
Yeah,
And that's part of why I love a good therapist that's a good connection, because mine helped me with that. Um, and I would love to go back, but I went for a few years and I still use all those tools. So, um, and I would clarify here too. I've got a bachelor's in history, a master's in public administration. I am in no way qualified to give health advice, physical or mental, or legal advice, or anything like that. I speak from my own experience and observation, and that's it. And I'm a medium, so I'll tell you what the ghosts are telling me. But I, I, take it for what it is and find your own. Everybody has a path, and it's important to find it. It just makes life easier.
I'm taking the same advice that William said that he was going to do. He said he was going to grow old disgracefully, and I'm going to do the same. So we're
I
going
don't
to
have
do
a choice. I try to behave myself, and it doesn't work.
this. When you reach a certain age and you go through the change, sometimes it's hard to suffer fools gladly. So when
Huh?
you get to a certain age, I think that entitles you to say what you feel, but do it. nicely, not
I tr
aggressively.
I try to do it nicely, get over the emotional part, and then also think about, "Okay, is it really worth saying anything? Or
Yeah,
I just not need to hang out so much," you know?
exactly. See, Yvonne, she's the same age as me, I should imagine, and so we could get away with certain things.
Mhm.
Ladies of an age.
Right, and men of an age just get called I don't know what we get called. We become invisible often.
But
That's okay.
but there is such a thing. Believe it or not, I really do believe there is such a thing called menopause. Like men go through something as well as
I've
women,
heard
but
that.
it's just not. It's not recognised at this time.
Mhm.
But
The
actually, men go
midlife
through something.
crisis is a real thing.
Yeah, definitely,
Mhm. Oh,
definitely. No, get out of here, Von. No, you're not.
well, thank you very much, Vaughn.
She's
Um,
lovely, isn't she?
Viv, we've been live for an hour and 26 minutes.
Have we really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I think let's end the session for today.
Hmm.
And thank you, Robert. It was great.
Thank you, Robert.
I just was trying to. Oh, yeah. Well, I do too, Eric. So, yeah, I get it.
It's nothing to be ashamed of, honestly. Just embrace it.
Vaughn, I'm older than you are. Um,
And he's all right. Oh, come on.
but I thank you for being here, and thank you everybody for listening, or watching, whatever it is you do with video. Um, and no, I don't sample the whiskey bottle. I've had a cup of coffee, but that's it before the shows. I just
And
get
have fun.
tongue tied and have fun. Yeah. So great. We'll see you all. I hope in a couple weeks, and I'll have to check to see who my guest is. I don't remember off the top of my head. I've got two on the books so far for this week and next month, and I can't remember which one's which.
You're
So
getting as bad as me.
it's written down. Um,
Thanks, Von.
oh, hot toddy sounds good, but it's only 3:30 my time, so a bit early, and I have to drive yet. So take care, Vivien. It's always a complete and utter joy,
Thank you
and
very much for having me, William. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed myself. Thank you.
you're welcome. I did too. And so everybody, enjoy. Um, have a good rest of your weekend. Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Whoops.